Howdy there, folks. I want to go ahead and give two huge warnings to everybody that's in the stock market right now. I didn't prep a lot of slides for this video. This is going to be just a lot of me talking to the camera. There's two slides I do have prepared here that I want to speak about, and I want to just share some wisdom on kind of what's going on in the market right now and explain to folks not really so much what's going on in the market, because we've talked a lot about that, right? Folks maybe leaving the market who have been destroyed this year, right, through a lot of high growth stocks, spec stocks. Obviously, tax loss harvesting you have going on in basically late November, early December. You have all those factors, okay? But I want to give two big warnings to folks out there on exactly, because a lot of folks right now are looking at this and they're like, well, should I be investing? Should I wait till January to start investing, right? Or start like buying stocks, not even like start investing. Maybe you're already investing, but maybe you have money on the sideline. So let's say you have $5,000 on the sideline. People are like, well, do I buy stocks now or do I just wait till January because they're probably going to go lower over the next few weeks, right? More tax loss harvesting, more margin calls, more devastation overall. And so I want to speak about this, okay? Now, before we get into these two major warnings, I think this just needs to be said, okay? What we're going through right now will pass, okay? This is, we're going to reference this time period we're going through as the small cap stock crash, okay? We'll call it the small cap stock crash of late 2021, because that's essentially what happened, right? It's not just small caps. It's been a lot of stocks, even travel stocks that got hit lately, but a lot of high growth companies that aren't even small caps, like a Teladoc, Palantir and some of those stocks as well. But let's be quite frank, the small caps have gotten it the worst. And so we'll forever reference this as the late 2021 small cap stock crash. And I'll teach this in future years. You know what I also said this about? I said this about December of 2018. I said I'm going to use this as a teaching moment in the future. And sure enough, one of the things we're going to reference in this video here today is December 2018. And it's funny how we can have these moments in time that a lot of people, if you're not participating in it, you don't know what's going on. You've never been through this in those sorts of things, right? For us that have been through, stock market crashes, stock market corrections, different worries in the market, we understand that this is temporary, right? 3 years from now, no one's going to talk about this unless it's like a teaching point for me to bring out in a video. Like, this will just be another thing that's forgotten. We'll move on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And so I think that's really, really important for everybody to remember, because when you're in that moment, you think it's going to last forever or something like that. And it's like, it doesn't. You end up moving on. Things go on, and stocks that are great companies end up thriving over time. Okay. Now, so around the first big warning I want to give here. Okay. So imagine for a moment you're on a roller coaster, right? Which the stock market can many times be described as a roller coaster ride. And I think it's actually a pretty good reference, right? The stock market can be a roller coaster. Like, sometimes it's very calm. And guess what? Some roller coaster rides at some moments are pretty calm, right? And sometimes you're having the time of your life, and then you're scared out of your life. And right now, you look at a day like this particular day, which if people are watching this days from now, weeks from now, it won't even be relevant. But today was a green day. Tomorrow could very easily be a red day. So you get moments on a roller coaster ride where it's like calm, right? And so then you think, okay, it's everything's up from here, right? Well, I guess we reached the bottom. Until it's not the bottom, right? And so, if we go ahead and we look at basically what happened in late 2018. This was a really, really rough market. It was rough was, a nice word to use, I guess, for that type of market. And let me be very clear. There was a particular market where everything fell, all stocks. This market, almost everything is falling. Even companies like Square, PayPal, Visa, MasterCard have been falling. I was looking at, I think it was Visa yesterday. I think Visa was even at a 52-week low. Square is right around a 52-week low. PayPal's at a 52-week low. So it's starting to be basically anything growth, and small caps were just the first to kind of fall. The only things that haven't really fallen yet, Microsoft, Apple, Google McDougal, and Amazon a little bit. Those ones are kind of holding up. Tesla's holding up pretty decent. Nvidia's holding up pretty decent. If those ones are the last straw, if those ones fall, okay, this drop here was very, very noticeable. And the reason it was so noticeable, and everybody referenced it and everybody was talking about it at that particular time, was because it was the big stocks as well. This one's not nearly as talked about as that stock that's called a big correction that happened, okay? Now, Keep in mind, in that December fall, right? This was through basically December 24th. So after that, after Christmas, the market started to bounce back a bit. So the month didn't finish as negative as a lot of folks, were looking at. But basically, that was going to be the worst December performance since the Great Depression. How many people even know that? Outside of people that are super into stock market investing, I guarantee you 99% of the population have no clue what even happened and transpired during that time period. That was going to be the worst stock market crash or situation for December since the Great Depression, okay? So some food for thought here is, if you're deploying money out there, do it very strategically. Don't just go all in one day or something like that. Because understand, this can get worse. And you're looking at stock prices, and I understand a lot of us are looking at, a lot of these stock prices right now, right? And we're saying, well, I don't think these stock prices can really go lower. This is ridiculous. Corsair's at $21 a share. Tattoo Chef's at $15. Honest is at $8. You're looking at the stock. Voyager's at $14. Wynn just dropped. PayPal's at a 52-week low. Square's around a 52-week low. Teladoc just hit around a 52-week low. Palantir. You're looking at all these stocks and it's like, my gosh, can it really go lower? They seem like they hit new 52-week low after no new 52-week low after new 52-week low. Can this really get worse? Absolutely. Abso-dang-lutely, okay? So that's something you got to keep in mind. If it got this bad, just understand it can get worse. And so you got to understand, if you're deploying money out there, which I am, right? Do it strategically. Don't go all in one day because it can get worse and you want to have some money around for that. You also don't want to sit on the sideline and sit on your hands and be like, I'm not going to participate, right? But you gotta just, watch what you're investing. If you're buying on margin, which I know most people that are watching this video, you're not on margin, which is essentially investing debt money, okay? Be very, very careful in this sort of market. This is a very, for a lot of folks, this is a market that is very attractive to use margin, right? Because you're seeing all these stocks fall and you're like, especially if you have limited money, which every single person has limited money. I don't care how much money you have. Everybody's got limited money, right? You're looking at this and you're like, oh man, if only I had more money to invest. And so then you start looking at margin. Keep in mind, in this sort of market, you can get absolutely decimated from margin calls, essentially, okay? Because although we're looking at these stock prices and we're like, this is ridiculous, right? Keep this in mind. Who is to say by the end of this month, Palantir is not trading at $14? Who's to say at the end of this month, Smile Direct Club's not trading at $1.50? Who's to say Tattoo Chef at the end of this month isn't trading at $12? Or Corsair at $8? Or Honest at $6, right? Or Oatly at $6? Or Wynn Resorts at $65? Who's to say PayPal doesn't go down to $150? Or Square doesn't drop another 20%, right? And so if you're looking out there, there's certainly opportunities, but you just got to understand, especially if you're investing on margin, you got to be very, very careful, because we're already looking at so many of these stock prices that we think are steal deals, that we're like, seriously, like this is like a slam dunk money for the next 3 years. But just because it's slam dunk money for the next 3 years, 5 years, does not mean that is absolutely that stock's going to bottom here today. It can get sillier. It can go down more. We witnessed that in December of 2018, and we've witnessed that, obviously, the two big examples I don't really like to use are the 2007 through 2009 recession, because that's a whole separate situation there, right? That was a, massive, colossal, that's a whole separate thing, right? And then obviously I don't like to use the 2020 time period as a reference point, because that was a once in 100-year, health event, came out of nowhere, right? And the market fell 35% in a matter of 22 trading days, which was the fastest drop in the history of the stock market. So I don't really like to use those as reference points, but I do like to use 2011 and what happened there, but especially that December 2018, because it's a very, very similar time. And keep in mind, I think a lot of folks have probably already went ahead and taken advantage of tax loss harvesting, but it can still play out more, okay? There's still more probably tax loss harvesting coming, so that's a very, very important to keep in mind here, all right? Now, before I get to my second big warning, I also want to show you this, okay? This is a public account. This account here, which I started in probably, when was that? Maybe the beginning of 2018 or back half of 2017. I started this in my private stock group so you could see every single move I was making and how I build an account over time, right? And today it's awesome. It's at $1.75 million now, right? This is an account that was built in essentially the during that the late 2018 stock crash. Many of these positions I was building throughout that time into early 2019 when a lot of these stocks was devastated. Okay, like Facebook's here. Let me just start out at the top here. Elf on a Shelf's a perfect example of one of those either late 2018, early 2019 type plays. Facebook, yes, absolutely, okay. Skyworks Solutions, absolutely. Cruisy Doozy used to be in this account. That was one I thrived with, and that was one of those stocks. Tesla, Myesla, one of those stocks. So some of the best winners in the public account, those were stocks I took advantage of buying the huge dip in late 2018 and into early 2019 and was buying, okay? And so this kind of brings me into my second warning here, which is essentially, I'm starting to see a lot of folks saying things like this, okay? They're saying essentially, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to wait to buy any stocks until January. I'm going to let the devastation play out, and I'm going to buy in January because that's when everything will bottom, and that's when it'll be safe, and stocks will be at their lowest, okay? That could very well be right. That could absolutely be right. No doubt about it. That's definitely a possibility. However, you got to understand, like, if stocks are trading at values that you think are ridiculous, like ridiculously too low, and you're planning on holding these stocks for several years out, and you're not like a stock trader where you're trying to get in and out or something like that, and you think, let's say there's a stock trading at $10 a share, and you're like, this is a $40, $50 stock 5 years from now, right? Don't be greedy. That is flat out greed. If you're going to say, I'm going to sit on my hands and not buy this because it could go lower by January, you're making a massive, colossal mistake. You could get lucky, and that could play out that way. And if it plays out the way it played out in 2018, you're going to be right? Because basically the market kind of bottomed toward the very end of December. So if you start buying in the beginning of January or anytime in there, you were looking pretty good, okay? Now, you did miss out on some gains because a lot of stocks bottomed on December 24th. So it is some food for thought there. So, those stocks might have already gone up 10, 15, 20%, and you unfortunately missed out on that, right? But at the end of the day, just like you can be greedy with, margin, greedy with going all in call options, something like that, that's a form of greed. The same exact greed can happen is if you see stocks you love and you believe in so much for the coming years and you think are going to be huge money makers, and you choose to sit on your hands because you're like, well, it's probably going to take another month before the market bottoms, so I'll start buying in January. That's another form of greed. You could absolutely be right, and the market could continue to go down, but it's not a guarantee, okay? And every time you think you've got the angle in the stock market, like in terms of predicting, like this is the way it's going to play out, this is going to it flips, okay? Like right now, if I was to put a guess on it, the market will continue to go down throughout December, right? And probably bottom out at the very end of December, beginning of January. It doesn't mean that's going to happen. Who's to say the market can't bottom tomorrow and then all of a sudden for the rest of the month we skyrocket, right? And everybody's like, wait a minute. I thought there was more tax loss harvesting coming. I thought there was going to be more margin calls, and now all of a sudden this stock's up 20% from lows, 30%, 40%, 50%. It's going to fall again. And then you're like in January, February now, and you're like, it's going to fall, right? And then they keep moving up and you're like, and then you're all of a sudden in this situation, okay? I've been there before where I've been greedy around pricing in stocks where I haven't taken advantage because I'm like, well, it could go lower, including in March of 2020. I didn't buy in March of 2020. I didn't start buying until April when we had already started climbing out. But at least I had a good dang reason for that, right? That was a once in a 100-year health event, and no one that's in the stock market has ever been through an event like that, right? Including myself. So that was at least a scary time. This isn't even remotely close to as scary of a time. This is just a moment where some folks are saying, you know what? I think they'll go lower. I think everything's going to be lower. Corsair's going to be at 18, and I can pick up some Chef for 14, and can pick up some Palantir for 16, and just going through all the stocks. You might be able to, and great. But are you willing to risk the potential upside there? If you think those stocks have limited upside over the next 3, 5, 7 years, you shouldn't even be buying them in the first place, right? That's some food for thought. So that's my two big warnings out there, guys. Watch the greed on both sides. Watch the greed on both sides because I feel like there's going to be a lot of greed on both sides of this. Either people going way too heavy, way too fast, and maybe loading up on call options, figuring we're going to have a massive bounce back, margining out money. And I think on the flip side, we're going to have a lot of folks that are greedy that think for sure, the bottom's coming in December, and then it's going to be, you buy in December essentially, right? And we're just going to trend down the whole time. Maybe it happens. It's definitely possible. That's where I would probably put my money if I was forced to make a bet on it. Doesn't mean that's the way it's going to work out. The stock market is never easy to predict. That's just a bottom line. It does some of the wackiest things you ever seen, and then all of a sudden you're stuck and you're like, really? How are all these stocks jumping 20, 30, 40, 50, 60% all of a sudden? They got to fall again, and then it just doesn't come back down. You're like, wow, I just really missed that, all because I stayed on the sideline and I was greedy, right? If you don't see good deals, don't buy. If you see great deals, alrighty guys, hope you enjoy this as always. A little wisdom out there. Much love as always. Don't forget to download the Hungry Bowl and subscribe to this channel. It's absolutely free to do. Subscribe, because we got drama. Peace.